Tina, Tina, nobody else but Tina. That
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, I have a lot of ground to cover today with some really rather interesting subjects. Well, I hope you'll find them interesting. So, without further ado, I'm going to plunge in with what Anna Moore says. I've read Tina Brown's books and seen her mention you in such a way that leads me to believe you know each other. We do. Well spotted. Can you please comment on the way she has pulled the rug from under Meghan's feet? Her latest opinions are devastating. Well spotted. And A.M. Bren says, Dearest Lady C, wow, Tina Brown, big block capitals, her many big block capitals, comments on the dastardly duo in the Daily Mail today. Whoops! Oh dear. Your thoughts, please. Warmest wishes from France to you and your 4 fur babies. Well, the Daily Mail was rather more comprehensive than the Ankler podcast, which is what Tina gave, because Tina is launching a new entity. It's called, she's going to have a podcast on Subtrack. So the queen of magazine editrices, or editors, I suppose we can say, because editrices are obviously female editors, but the queen of all female editors as well as male editors, Tina Brown. She is the one who revived Vanity Fair and turned it from a failing embarrassment into the outstanding success that it became under her guidance. And she handed it over to Graydon Carter, who perpetuated her success. No longer, of course, he's no longer the editor, and it's tanked. Before that, she edited The Tatler, which is when I met her. I've known Tina since the 1970s. She's very bright. She's very capable. She is a professional journalist. And what I find interesting about all of this is Tina's timing, because Tina has plunged the knife in well and truly in a way that she embarrassingly failed to do when she should have done it 2 or so years ago, when she published the Palace Diaries, which, if I recall correctly, I was asked to do a criticism of, and I did do a critique, and I made the point that Tina's comments with regard to Prince Harry and Meghan were totally out of line, and she was clearly sucking up to the liberal American establishment, because she was very pro Harry and Meghan, and Britain can't do without Harry and Meghan, and Britain needs Harry and Meghan, and poor Harry and Meghan. Well, now that she's going independent, she's discovered her true feelings. Well, let me just say before I get into what she said, that Tina, after Vanity Fair, she then edited, I think it was The New Yorker, left and did a very good job of that as well, because she is a true professional. She is very well connected on both sides of the Atlantic. She's a competent writer She has good information. She has good sources. She has good researchers. And she knows, as all good journalists do, how to make the material as interesting as possible. Which is why I criticised her roundly in the Palace Diaries for, well, I should say in my critique of the Palace Diaries, for the quite frankly shocking way in which she was pretending that Harry and Meghan were a greater success story than they are. Well, she's dropped that act now, because after she did The New Yorker, she disastrously, by her own account, edited the talk for Harvey Weinstein, and to her disappointment, he didn't try to seduce her, which is hardly surprising. But Tina is very capable, and she is very much a sort of, well, she's very careful about what she says and what she does. And that was an error of judgment on her part, in much the same way that her bigging up of Meghan and Harry in the Palace Diaries has been an error of judgment. But she's written many books. She did the Diana Chronicles many years ago, which really collated everybody's work on Diana, including mine. And so she knew Diana, and she and Diana had a cordial relationship. It wasn't a friendship. Diana used writers and journalists and many other people, actually, for the length of time it suited her. And as Tina observed, Diana was actually absolutely brilliant in, I think she used the word shrewd, in her approach to her public relations. And then she made the point that Meghan isn't. Well, after she left Talk, she then set up the Daily Beast, which again has been an outstanding success. Online. She was at the cutting edge of that. Well, she's finally understood the way to go is forget about the mainstream media and join our world. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, I suppose she's relatively early to the party, but not as early as some of us have been, which good. I'm delighted to see that she's finally understood it's much better to be inside the great library of Alexandria than outside of it. So, well, she said that Meghan is flawless at getting it all wrong. She has the worst judgment of anyone in the world, which I think was a little bit of an exaggeration. But she was very negative about her on the podcast. She was touchingly, you could say, out of touch with the reality of Harry, because whether she is promulgating this line so that she can keep in with the king or not is beyond my ability to actually discern, or then she's just ignorant because she's lived in America for so many years. She was saying that she thinks Harry is very good at what he does, which he was, not is, and that there's a way back for him, but not for Meghan. There's no way back for him. And if she doesn't realize it now, she will in the next reign. But she did say that basically the party's over for Meghan. And what I found interesting was her timing. Why has she done this now? She's done it now because she's going to be on subtrack. She needs to be more independent. She can't follow the party line, something she has assiduously done for all of her career. She would rock the boat only slightly. She never was a great risk taker. Very professional, very capable. But now that she has to be independent, she's speaking the truth. How very interesting that is. Well, the Mail, of course, has picked this up, which I find very interesting, because the Mail is driving two cars in opposite directions at the moment. They're often very pro Meghan and Harry because they're trying to settle their lawsuit with Harry, and Harry's trying to settle their lawsuit against them with them. And so they have to be somewhat positive about Harry and Meghan. And of course, they have now parachuted in Bryony Gordon, who is Harry's go-to journalist of choice. She's moved from the Telegraph to the Mail with all her pro-Harry rubbish, which is fine. And then Liz Jones, who is another Mail columnist, who was always very pro-Meghan, came out with a really rather negative article on Meghan, using her clothes to show how she's gone from Duchess to D-lister. So, but the Mail story doesn't only cover the Ankler podcast with Tina Brown, but they use that to really plunge the knife in. What they do is cover practically everything else that Tina has said recently that might have a negative spin. And I'm going to go over some of it. In an essay in the New Yorker, Tina did marvel at the shrewd approach to public relations that Diana had, an area she believes Meghan is totally lacking in. Well, Meghan is totally lacking in. Meghan is the supreme egotist who thinks that if she thinks it, it's got to be so, and doesn't learn from her mistakes. But then egotists of that degree can't. She also said in the about Diana and Meghan that Meghan didn't understand how hard Diana had to work to become the humanitarian superstar that she did. And she made the point that for 15 or 16 years, Diana did the donkey work, the slog of cutting ribbons, having lunch with mayors. Diana used to say, not another effing boring mayor, but she did it very well. And the result is that Diana ended up revered because she had put in the donkey work. Meghan has never put in any donkey work. Meghan thought that the photo op is where it's at, which is what I picked up and realized 3 days after her wedding that there were going to be problems. When I was told of her comment at Buckingham Palace, the day before, I was told on the Wednesday, and on the Tuesday she had been to King Charles's 70th birthday party at Buckingham Palace, and after 15 minutes had informed Harry, come on, Harry, it's time to leave. This is really boring, and they've got the photographs. So, I've been photographed. Mr. DeMille, here I am. Yes, yes. I know how to move and shake, and I know how to catch the camera. Yes, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. Totally missing the point. And the public have figured it out. She also criticised Harry and Meghan for completely underestimating what life would be like without the palace platform, and argued that Meghan lacks a defined brand and latches on to the latest Twitter sensation of the moment. Well, all of that is true. She has previously made the point in an article in the Times in 2021. She said, which is no secret, we've all made the point. I think I made it long before she did in my book, Meghan and Harry, the Real Story, when it was published in, I think, 2020, that the Australian visit was not the outstanding success that it was, that Meghan's attitude was totally unacceptable, that she couldn't see the point of it all. Well, because she wasn't being paid. She thought it was silly when people assembled to see them. She said, and this is what Tina quotes Meghan as saying, "What are they all doing here? It's silly." She made the point, which we've all made, that Meghan simply didn't get it. And she made the point that I made in my book, that Meghan and Harry took away from the Australian tour the delusion that because the press were bigging them up, that they were bigger than they were, that all of a sudden they should be acknowledged as the royal superstars of all time. According to her, it was head-turning for Meghan to experience the full-throttle motorcade purring, outrider vrooming, crowd-roaring adulation of a popular young royal on a tour, planned to the last teacup by the palace machine. Meghan seemed to interpret this success as a call for brand Sussex to be elevated in the palace hierarchy. She's a good writer. She's catchy. She's a journalist as well. So she's snappy, catchy. Let's get it to a point right now, and pizzazz. She's very good like that. Very good. She also makes the point, and made it in a New York Times podcast called Sway, that Meghan was a disaster for both sides, and that both Harry and Meghan are addicted to drama. She said both of them made bad choices, and that they could have left the royal family on better terms if they hadn't been so hot-headed. She said, "I actually think there is a Harry-shaped hole in the royal family now. And Harry was beloved, actually, by the British people. And people adored Meghan when she came into the mix. So it was actually very, very sad for everybody that it went so wrong, because they actually need Harry and Meghan now." Well, she's wrong there. We don't need Harry and Meghan. We don't want Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan unleashed upon us would be like rabid dogs at the Crufts show. Nobody wants their dogs to be bitten by the rabid dogs, nor does anybody want to be bitten themselves by the rabid dog. So that's all rubbish. Shows how out of touch she is. But she believes that not only are Meghan and Harry addicted to drama, but that Harry will wake up and realise he's living in Gwyneth Paltrow's goop. Well, he's already woken up and realised that. He's not left yet. I make that point for what it's worth. Let's wait and see what happens, though. She made an observation. Again, she's a journalist, so she actually is repeating an awful lot of what those of us who actually broke the news stated, which is that I said that Harry was enthralled to Meghan, and she actually used that word as well in the Antler podcast, which I found very interesting, because when I used it in 2020, I was roundly abused by the mainstream media for having said that. But she now says that Harry appears to have been completely and utterly taken over by Meghan, and his whole personality has changed. I do question how it will end. Maybe he'll wake up and realise he's living in goop and he has to get the hell out, go down the pub and see his friends. Well, the Mail has used Tina's recent comments, because she's edged from being very pro Harry and Meghan to now just pro Harry. And she's plunged, as I said, the knife in where Meghan is concerned. Isn't it interesting that she did it? She waited for the Hollywood Reporter to do it. She waited for The Cut last year to hang Meghan with her own words. She waited for Us Weekly to come out with the panegyric. She is a very capable journalist. There is no doubt about it. She is very capable. Shall we leave it at that? Because I actually think that Tina is basically an excellent journalist who consumes the offerings and the scoops of other writers. She doesn't come out with any of her own, but she has a fine reputation as an outstanding editor, and it is well deserved. But for people to be saying, well, Tina Brown says it, and so it's so. Tina Brown only says what it's safe to say is so. Late to the party, sorry. Leonor Carneiro says, Dear Lady C, I am Portuguese and know the compound where Harry and Meghan bought their house. The setting is beautiful, but it is the ultimate nouveau riche spot in Portugal. I'm not surprised. Take tea with a cocked finger and classy, capital K, classy. I'm just so classy. I've got to remind you at all turns I'm classy. And the way to remind you is to be as nouveau as possible. Eugenie's husband is responsible for the whole thing, and as far as I know, they stay there part of the year. A paradise to rich Brazilians, mainly from Sao Paulo. That's so wicked. I love it. And the George Clooneys of this world. Very successful. Very successful. very eminent, very politically astute. And Amal Clooney is certainly a brilliant barrister. And George Clooney, it is said, is aiming to be President of the United States of America one of these days. And Amal will be the first lady, covered in glory for all her humanitarian work. She's very glamorous. I'm sure they will fit in beautifully. Well, not with the Clooneys. The Clooneys are absolutely, to my certain knowledge, very much batting with William and Catherine. It used to be a paradise, no longer affordable to ordinary citizens like me. Both the socialist and communist city councils gave that place away to the new owners of the Portuguese coastline, namely very rich and very powerful people that are not interested in preserving what this country had that most European countries have lost long ago. Thank you for your videos. All the best to you and your puppies. Thank you for that. I've heard similar things from other people and thought I would share that insight into the dream, because Harry and Meghan are living the dream of the arriviste, the dream of the nouveau riche. And what to me is tragic about it all is that Harry has the benefit of not being an arriviste. Harry was brought up to understand that arriviste values the nouveau riche vulgarianism that is so prevalent in certain segments of society, and the values ultra-materialistic in the flashest, most vulgar way. Instead of being noble, it's being me, materialistic. Oh, egotistical. Look how wonderful I am. Not I am wonderful because I am trying to do a good job and doing my best. And if you acknowledge it, great. Shades of Princess Anne or Prince William and Catherine or Camilla or the King. None of that. Or Edward and Sophie. None of that. It's look how fabulous I am. There's a camera. Let's go, Mr. DeMille. And he's taking it hook, line, and sinker. Claudia Poe says, Lady C, I have been watching your channel for years and appreciate the veracity of your content. Everyone is always talking about metal, but I have been hearing negative comments about Queen Consort Camilla's ambitions to integrate her family into the royal line. She's reported to muscle her way to become more prominent than Catherine. I don't think that her biological family has any right to pursue equal status to the bloodline of the monarchy. I have always considered the inclusion of her family members as a courtesy, not a requirement. Would you please explain why she believes that her status is superior to the wife and mother of the future queen? As I understand it, Queen Elizabeth II stipulated that Princess Catherine should become queen rather than queen consort. If you can bring any clarity to this matter, I would greatly appreciate it. A devoted fan, Claudia. Claudia, thank you very much for that. First of all, I don't know, talking about metal, I don't know what metal is, sorry. I have no idea. To me, metal is this. Well, these are stones, they're set in metal. So I don't know what that is, so I'm just going to give that a wide berth. Queen Camilla is the Princess of Wales's superior. It was not in Queen Elizabeth II's gift to make Catherine a queen rather than a queen consort. Catherine will never be a queen regnant. She will only ever be a queen consort. And the late Queen made it absolutely clear she wanted Camilla to be acknowledged as a queen consort, which she has been. Queen consorts they're not known as the queen consort. It is not a title, it is a rank. They are known as, for instance, Queen Mary, Queen Alexandra, Queen Elizabeth, who then became the Queen Mother, Queen Adelaide, Queen Charlotte, Queen Caroline. The list is endless of Queen's consort. It was not in the place of the Queen to decide that Catherine could become a queen regnant. So I don't know where you got that from, but it's inaccurate. Camilla is not trying to get her bloodline elevated. Her children don't have titles. Her sister doesn't have a title. Her children are never going to be in the line of succession, nor will any member of her family be. And she has no ambition for them to be. There's an awful lot of misinformation out there at the moment about poor Queen Camilla and her supposed ambitions. I'm not surprised. Harry went to great lengths in spare to make out that Camilla is more ambitious than she actually is. Camilla never aimed to be the wife of King Charles. He's the one who insisted. I know this as a fact. Camilla has had a very bad rap. So I hope that answers the question. Because Camilla's family are not of equal status to the monarchy. They will never be. And even if they were endowed with titles, they still wouldn't be. And if anything, it's far more likely that Mr. and Mrs. Michael Middleton would be given a title than Camilla's sister. Her parents are dead. Her brother is dead. Her sister is alive. Her two children are alive. And no question of any of them getting a title. So I hope that answers the question. Sue Thomas says, Dear Lady C, do the younger royals of Europe socialise with each other? To an extent, yes. The Scandinavian royals socialise with each other a lot more than our royals socialise with them. The Spanish royals are connected to the Greek royals and the Danish royals. So they are also incorporated into the mix, so to speak, because the Greek royals are subsidiaries. They're actually a cadet branch of the Danish royal family. And of course, the present King of Spain's mother is a Greek princess. So, but insofar as mixing with our royal family, officially, yes. As close friends, no. But they all intermingle because they are members of the same club. And all members of clubs mix with each other more than they do with strangers. Having said that, they've all been marrying out all of them. So, Kitty says, Dear Lady C, could you please comment on the BRICS, BRICS Summit in Kazan, Russia, which is taking place from the 22nd until the 24th of October. That's today. How significant do you think it is, and what's the opinion about it in the UK, given that the Western media is giving this summit minimum to no coverage, in contrast to the apparent summit's growing significance, at least for the countries outside of the West? Thank you. That's an excellent question. The background to this is relevant. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Yeltsin was promised that there would be no membership of NATO by any former Soviet satellite or republic. That was very quickly broken by President Clinton. Then George Bush took the matter further under the influence of Rumsfeld and Cheney and was aggressively insisting on the expansion of NATO. Yeltsin and Putin both, because after the Twin Towers tragedy, Putin assisted the United States of America and the West in an anti-terrorist move with various assurances. And Putin and Yeltsin both expressed a desire to join NATO, and under Bush it became the 19 members of NATO plus Russia. So it was 19 plus 1. So Russia was not going to be a member of NATO, but Russia and the United States were going to form another entity where Russia would have a say, and Russia would become a valued and valued member of the European family of nations. Rumsfeld and Cheney scuppered that. Russia has all along displayed discomfiture, publicly and privately, about the expansion of NATO. NATO was created as a counterbalance to the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union existed no more, most Europeans, including Chancellor Kohl of Germany and President Chirac of France and Prime Minister John Major of the United Kingdom, all felt that Russia should be included in the European family of nations. And the Americans discouraged that because they saw that if Russia were incorporated, ultimately, the Western world, which America had been dominating and continues to dominate, would splinter, and it would become, on the one hand, a European superpower with Russia and an American superpower. And having got rid of the only other superpower in terms of the collapse of the Soviet Union, they wanted to be the sole superpower. So they had to exclude Russia. However, Russia's fear was that they would be encircled by an American-led anti-Russian coalition, hence why they sought and received assurances that NATO would never expand and that it certainly would not expand to Ukraine. Ukraine was always, Russia made clear, that Ukraine had to remain neutral. I won't go into the reasons why. All of this, incidentally, is a matter of history. None of this is a matter of opinion. So those of you who have a differing opinion, fine. Please feel free to have it. But I'm not dealing with opinion. I'm dealing with facts. And I'm answering the question in terms of facts. Just as how President Kennedy felt that Khrushchev had no right to have missiles pointing to America based in Cuba, Russia has argued all along that NATO has no right to have its missiles pointing into Russian territory. They allowed the inclusion of Latvia. Latvia is on the border of Russia. It's 90 miles from St. Petersburg. They lived with that. They lived with all sorts of inclusions, Hungary, etc. But they always said the absolute red line is Ukraine. So the Russian view was, and they have articulated this since the downfall of the Soviet Union, Ukraine must remain independent. And Ukraine cannot join a Western alliance because it is an alliance against Russia. And since Russia wanted to be friends with Europe and the United States of America, it is unacceptable to Russia that there would be missiles pointed at them as if they were an enemy when they do not wish to be an enemy. That is the basis upon which BRICS has been formed. It consists of emerging superpowers. There is China. There is India. People don't realize how rich and progressive India has become. We in the West act as if India is still old India. India is not old India. And there are several countries that have joined and other countries that will be joining as a counterbalance against American and European might. So that's why it has been created. It is created as a counterweight to the overweening, in their view, influence that the Western powers have worldwide. Now, Russia and China have radically different approaches to many things. India, as well, has radically different approaches to many things. One thing each of those countries shares in common is a pride in its identity and a determination to not have their identity dictated to by us. We have, in their view, sacrificed a lot of our identity to what they regard as dangerous policies, socio-economically. So that is the significance of BRICS, and it will grow, and it's going to continue to grow. My own opinion is that we in the West have made a huge mistake by isolating Russia and preventing Russia from joining the European family of nations. It was always in Europe's interest that a non-communist Russia, not a communist Russia, a communist Russia should have been resisted, and fortunately was, but a non-communist Russia, there was no reason for us to make it isolated when it wanted to share our values. And we would have had a European superstate of some description. I don't think it would have been an identified superstate the way the United States of America is, because Russia, for instance, has reverted to many of its Tsarist ideals, the emergence of the church, the Orthodox religion, the values of orthodoxy, the Christian orthodoxy, not woke orthodoxy, Christian orthodoxy, the Greek Orthodox religion moved up to Russia because it's now called Russian Orthodox, but a century ago it was still called the Greek Orthodox Church in Russia. And so to them, there are Christian values that we, in their opinion, have surrendered, which they have re-embraced. Remember, they had over 70 years of communism. They know about anti-Christian ideals. So they have embraced their past. And of course, the United States of America foreign policy was quite rightly so, I should think, in the interests of the United States of America. I don't think it was in Europe's interest. But wars that will be fought in Europe are not going to be fought in America. So the United States of America, the State Department's foreign policy will never impact particularly upon the average American person. So the average American person will always have a radically different idea of the reality that Europeans are facing as conflict arises in Europe. That really, had it been one big happy family, which is what all of the European nations in varying degrees wanted, except those that had been a part of the Soviet Union, they had justifiable, it has to be said, suspicion of Russian influence. But what they did not seem to understand was that there was a huge cultural difference between Russian influence and Soviet influence. True Russian ideals and ideology and cultural identity bear little or no resemblance to actual Soviet. And may I make the point, before getting off the subject, that many Russians loathed communism and understood that most of the communist leaders were not Russian. Stalin, for instance, was not Russian. Dzerzhinsky wasn't Russian. I just make that point for what it's worth. So, next question. Would Travalyst approve of regular trips of 5,600 miles each way by air to your holiday home, especially when you live in a holiday destination? Travalyst will most definitely approve if it's ahead. Remember, Travalyst was set up as a company with money that was given to Prince Harry by Prince William. Travalyst was set up as a company. And of course, Travalyst has to approve of the need of its head honcho to fly halfway across the world to go from one holiday destination to another, because he's so taxed, overworked to the bone, surfing in fake surfers, ponds, fake waves, everything's so authentic. I think you get my point. Misha Brannock says, the thing with Harry and Meghan is the gloss is off. Whatever star power and goodwill they had is gone. So no matter what happens legally, they are finished. At least Meghan is. I think she is total toast. When Tina Brown feels it's safe to jump on that bandwagon, you know she really is toast amongst the wokerati, because there's nobody more woke than Tina Brown. So when the wokerati think it's okay to throw her to the wolves, you know Meghan's earned it and she's got it. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. If you want to ask me weighty things, fine. If you want to ask me more frivolous things, fine too. I'm happy to cover whatever is of interest to you, as long as it is in my capacity to do so. Okay? Thank you so much. Take good care and Godspeed. Something funny is happening behind the camera. Sorry. Bye-bye. And if this has been of interest to you, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care. Godspeed. Bye-bye.